Hey cousins, welcome back to the channel. It's your girl Chrissy Pips, bringing you another one of my brief synopsis of the Outwitting the Devil book by Napoleon Hill. This is book 2 of our Mindset Monday series. And in today's video, we're going to be reviewing chapter 3 of our book. And for me, this is where things started getting good. But as always, if you're here, you're interested, so let's get into it.
The revolution will be live.
Okay, now chapter 3 is titled A Strange Interview. It's actually a precursor to the interview to set you up for what's about to come. This chapter starts off with Napoleon explaining why he needed to give you his backstory before letting you inside of the conversation with the devil. Now, the devil's undoing began in 1929 when the Great Depression hit. Unfortunately, Hill was one of the people who lost everything, including about 600 acres in property and all of his income. He said in this part that the bank that he was with had folded and he lost all of his money, which is why I try not to keep all my funds in one basket. But as the world dealt with this catastrophe, Hill decided to move back to where it all began, to where he had first met Andrew Carnegie almost 25 years ago in Washington, D.C. For 3 years, Hill sat and waited for some great epiphany to strike. And as always, one did. But this was not like that strange, strong voice like before. It was just an idea. Since the world was being overcome by depression, just in poverty and things like that, he thought that it might be a good idea to get back to the service of other people and put to use what he had spent almost 25 years researching and developing. He thought it might be a good idea to put to practice his life's work. After all, someone needed to see whether or not it worked. Here is where he discovered that he lost his courage, his initiative, enthusiasm, and determination. He started to explore self-doubt, thinking that the information he felt he was meant to bring to people to help them would not get him out of this state of mind. Hill thought that the devil himself was celebrating his success over making Hill doubt 25 years of work. But the devil's opposition was at work as well, bringing him a definite plan of action in order to throw off that negative feeling that had captured him and most of the world during this Great Depression. Hill had realized that although he had learned valuable lessons from Carnegie and 500 others who he had interviewed, there was one key principle which he forgot to put into play. He had failed to create his own mastermind alliance. Then Mr. Hill goes on to set you up for what's about to happen and goes into the answer for some of the questions that he feels most people might have at the end of what's about to happen. So he thought most people's question would be, and I quote, "Did you really interview the devil, or did you merely interview an imaginary devil?" Now, his answer was that the devil may have been real, or it could have been something he created in his imagination. But either way it goes, that was besides the point. He thought what was more important was if the information that was being uncovered through this experience or through this conversation was dependable, and if the information could be helpful to people. He was not concerned about the real nature if it's actually helpful to people. And he thought it might be best for people to take the message for what it has to offer and not take how the message was being delivered so much into account. Don't worry so much about who the devil is or whether or not he exists. Now, from this point forward, Mr. Hill starts to refer to himself as Mr. Earthbound, which is who the devil is speaking to. Here begins the interview with the devil. Now, the interview starts off with Mr. Earthbound demanding that the devil give him straightforward answers, to which the devil replies, "Yes, but you will address me with much more respect." The devil asks Mr. Earthbound to refer to him as Your Majesty, which is fitting for the situation, right? Now, 98% of the people in the world suffer from the devil's grip. The devil is exactly one half of every atom, the negative side, of course, and the other half is the opposition. But negativity occupies the unused space in people's mind, then sits there and grows and festers. The amount of negativity is different from person to person based on how they think. Well, based on how positively they think. Fear is one of the devil's most clever forms of control. It takes one of these 6 forms. So, the fear of poverty, the fear of circumstance, the fear of ill health, the fear of lost love, the fear of old age, or the fear of death. The fear of poverty and the fear of death are the 2 used most often. Fear of things that don't exist is just as useful to the devil as the fear of things that do exist. Your mind gets so tightly wrapped around fear that it stops using deductive reasoning and logic. A person who thinks cannot be entirely controlled. The devil does his work hoping that you will be so fearful that you're consumed by your fears and you don't fight to find a way out. Fear takes away your freedom of thought and choice. This chapter goes a little bit more in depth about the fear of poverty. Now, it's used to discourage the independence of thought, to make you keep your mind on working, not growing, so that instead of thinking, you'll be stuck in a rhythm of working to pay bills and nothing more. Too scared to venture out on new ideas, like for the fear that they might not work or that you'll fail, in turn making it so that you're okay with working just to keep your head above water. Poverty makes it so that instead of having the means to campaign for better government or like to help wipe out just crooked politicians in general, or to create higher standards for business, higher standards for medicine, higher standards for education, you'll keep your head down and keep moving just to pay bills. Now, the other one that this chapter goes into a little bit more in depth is the fear of ill health. It's used so that you're thinking of your sickness and not focused on finding better ways of feeding people, clothing people, or housing people. A healthy man has healthy ideas, and nature provides a cure for much of the damage that we do to ourselves if we only have the time to find it. The devil, using the fear of ill health, puts us in an unnecessary state of hypochondria. And then it goes to say, like, cigarettes alone have the ability to break down the power of persistence. They kill your endurance, and they destroy your ability to concentrate. Any habit that kills willpower has the ability to open you up for other bad habits. Smoking is also a learned bad habit. Even small children see their parents and their older siblings smoking, and then that's where their interest comes from. Through this exchange, Hill makes it clear that cigarettes are like a gateway drug in his mind, and they lead to alcohol and the overindulgence of sex. Now, this chapter ends with Mr. Earthbound's request that the devil give him all of his tricks that he uses to control people in great detail. Now, in the next chapter, we're going to take a deeper dive into drifting with the devil. Now, I hope you guys are enjoying the book. If you are, please don't hesitate to let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. And just, is there anything from the Monday series that you've learned so far that you've carried over into your day-to-day life? Let me know in the comments below. But that's all for today's video. Thank you so much, guys, for coming. I love you, cousins, and I will see you guys in the next video.